Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Today, we're discussing a model launched in 2021, 41 millimeters in steel. This is the IWC Pilot's Watch Chronograph 41. So it's got a fashionably green dial in the wearably 41 millimeter case size. This is a very appealing timepiece that stretches the previous capabilities of the Pilot watches just a little bit further than you might expect, and I'll explain that in a moment. But 41 millimeters in diameter in steel, it's 14.7 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, 51.3 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. It wears nicely, but it does wear large. Because the lugs are over 51 millimeters across the wrist, it wears a little bit bigger than its rated size, so consider it more of like a 42, maybe even 43 millimeter round watch. I would say you probably shouldn't wear it on a wrist a lot smaller than mine, so let's say 16 centimeters circumference and up. It's not super thick. It's got a stepped case flank. It will fit underneath a lot of cuffs, just not the tightest wrist sleeves. The strap's a nice piece, brown matte finish. It is, of course, an IWC factory strap and has their easy exchange system. So what I like here is that it gives you a quick release, but it localizes the mechanism in the strap. So I can go back to the standard 20 millimeter sized lug and use any 20 millimeter sized OEM or aftermarket strap that joins to a case using a spring bar. So I get the best of both worlds. Quick release if I want to stick with IWC, and the ability to use any aftermarket strap I choose in a very common 20 millimeter size. We've got a buckle with polish and satin and IWC branding. The case, mostly of satin finish. You can see on the case flank, the lug hoods where it's a sort of circular satin, and then the base of the bezel, but the bezel's upper facet is polished, and then we have this expanding bevel that flares over the ends of the lugs, plus the chronograph pushers, their shoulder supports, and the crown. Now, I mentioned taking capability a little bit further than in the past. Well, this crown is a screw down, but the watch is no longer 60 meters. This generation of IWC Pilot's Watch chronograph is now 100. It still has the protection against accidental explosive decompression in an airplane, so if that happens, the crystals and the seals will not blow out. They're secured against that. The watch features a green metallic dial with an azurage pattern on each of the slightly countersunk sub-registers. Running seconds sits down at 6 o'clock. We've got a date 8 with a double quick set. IWC Schaffhausen in the German-speaking northeastern part of Switzerland, where very few watches are made. IWC has always been the flagship of German-speaking Swiss watchmakers. So it's IWC and Moser out there in Schaffhausen. Founded in 1868, fun fact, IWC was originally founded by an American in Europe. So taking a look at the dial, it's got a very instrument style look, and that's intentional. It's designed to evoke the flight deck instruments of a 20th century analog aircraft, and there's no shortage of luminescence. The watch has quite a bit of it, as you can see at the four corners, as well as the two broadsword hands. And we do have a couple of functions. One is a hacking or stop seconds function. So I can stop the movement and set it precisely against a reference time. I've also got a double quick set for the date as well as for the day. That's in the intermediate position. Now it uses an oscillating pinion. This movement, though built by IWC, but it is a Vol-Fleurier movement. So you can see this is the 69385. This is a movement that was created by Vol-Fleurier, which is the Richemont Group's movement manufacturer to all of its brands. So IWC builds this and regulates it, but it's a VF design. With a 30 millimeter diameter, it's designed to be a drop-in replacement for the older Valjoux 7750. So, like I said, this generation of the Pilot's Watch chronograph has new capabilities. Water resistance is one, and then the movement to replace the 7750 is another one. And it is different. A lot of upscale refinements include chronometer-style 5-position adjustment, a bidirectional pawl-based winding system, and instead of a cam function cycler, we have a column wheel for crisp action. One interesting thing, though, is that it keeps the 7750's distinctive oscillating pinion clutch. You can actually see it right there through a oiling port in the winding bridge. The oscillating pinion has very little play because it's a super small spur driving a large wheel. And as a result, when you engage an oscillating pinion, press and hold to start the chrono, It is as seamless in most cases as a vertical clutch with no extraneous movement because there's so little play in that type of clutch engagement. Of course, we've got a 4 Hz beat rate. We've got Edicron for fine adjustment with Inca block for shock protection and an eccentric screw for super fine changes to the timing. 4 Hz beat rate, 46-hour power reserve, nicely decorated, albeit in a completely mechanical fashion. Compared to the 25 joules 7750, this one's a little bit finer with 33 joules, and because it has a 30 millimeter size like the 78750, it's sizable enough to fill this case back well. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.